Kevin Boon with the BC Cattlemen's Association. Just want to give you a little bit of an outline on how British Columbia was affected last year through fires and flood, and how we were able to utilize the premise identification to assist our ranchers and our farmers in getting access back into the evacuated zones and being able to look after our animals, both for animal welfare purposes and for maintenance of the ranch and keeping the ranch operation running during these times. In the past, we've looked at premise ID as solely in our eye as being a requirement for animal health and for traceability. But it's much more than that. It's really a system that we can utilize for any emergency and emergency management situation. What premise ID showed us as a value is to the authorities, such as the RCMP and those that are looking after the areas within an evacuation or an emergency situation. Premise ID gave them a number, it gave them a valid reason to an identification to utilize for the producers to show that they had a purpose in there. In our situation last year during the fires where we needed to get fuel supplies and to do care for the animals, we were able to utilize premise ID to put on an entry permit that was recognized by the authorities, by the Army, by the RCMP, to show that they had a purpose for being in there. It went onto the purpose or onto the permit. Once it was on that permit and they had a permit, they were allowed access to it. It came with some requirements, reporting requirements, etc. But it also ended up giving us a lot of advantage in tracking our animals and tracking our people and in assisting in the emergency operations system, so that when something was being required to be done, like a backburn or a movement of personnel, we were able to get in touch with those individuals, coordinate with them, move our livestock out of a given area, and really work hand in hand with them. Without the premise ID and without utilizing it, we would have been in a much more difficult situation of identifying these people and showing why they were there. It went to the state of where we really gave the ranchers a purpose for being on premise ID and showing them that it's not just for animal health, that it is also for other situations, and that there is a valid reason for having one throughout. So I would really stress in this that sometimes we look at things in a very narrow aspect, and I think that's what we've done with premise ID, at least in British Columbia, where it was solely for traceability, and we kind of went into that not as not a no, but a hell no, we're not doing it. And as such, when we found another purpose, we realized that yes, there is a reason, and yes, it's positive, and yes, it can help us. And when it can help us in our situation, that's what's important. So really encourage you to look again at premise ID, because I think it is a value to our industry, and not just for traceability, but for a lot of other things. And we certainly found it beneficial for animal welfare and for helping our ranchers last year.